So, I realize that I tend to talk about video game sandboxes on a fairly large scale. Now, this usually comes down to me talking about single purpose or level up or analyzing an entire game. Today, I want to do something that's a little bit more small scale. Today, I want to talk about just niche little examples from different games. It doesn't matter if their entire sandbox is weak or strong. I just want to look at specific portions that I don't really feel like I talk about enough. Some of these I've never really even talked about at all. And in no particular order, just appreciate the things that the developers were able to do with these specific weapons and or tools and or magic abilities, just sandbox elements. So today I'm Pliskin and let's get right on into it.
セブンイレブンいい気分
Devil May Cry 5 is a game that I don't really talk about that much, but I really can't understate how this game may be one of the greatest games ever made in my eyes, and I'll probably put together a future review where I break down why. But today I want to talk specifically about Nero's Devil Breaker arms, just how much they contribute to why Nero feels so good to play overall. You see, the Devil May Cry series is all about utilizing different tricks and techniques to beat your enemies, and you want to try to vary between those different techniques so you get a higher ranking. So for example, you may be able to use the same sword attack, but you're not going to get a good ranking for that. So in the older games when you're playing as Dante, you really have to take the time to learn each and every single different weapon and combo string and put stuff together to get it varied enough in order to do well. In Devil May Cry 5, the developers balanced Nero in a way where the player just does this on an unconscious level without really having to, take the time to really learn it. And the Devil Breakers are a big part of this. You see, every Devil Breaker gives Nero a unique ability. Perhaps it's to dodge, perhaps it's crowd control damage, perhaps it's something that locks onto a specific enemy and does damage over time, which allows you to keep up your combo string because you'll be doing different shit, while that Devil Breaker is doing damage all the time to make sure you don't have any of that static dead air. However, you can only equip one of these at a time, which means you can only do one of these things at a time. And switching between different Devil Breakers involves you breaking the one you currently have equipped. So that means if I have something equipped that allows me to dodge very easily, and I need to prioritize doing damage, I need to physically destroy that dodge ability to go on to use a different arm. They're also balanced in a really cool way where if I take damage while using the arms, they also break. So whether or not I'm actively trying to switch up my playstyle or I just take damage, the game is automatically forcing me to play the game differently. There's varied playstyles, which helps with your ranking, but also helps you get in tune with the true spirit of Devil May Cry. Again, I'll break these things down in greater detail when I go over this game, but for now I want to say that the idea of having these little glass cannons on you at all times, having them be visible on the player so you could track what's next in the sequence of your arms as you're going through combat encounters, and constantly be aware of what you're losing and what you're gaining. This kind of risk-reward gameplay is brilliant.
Oh, thanks, bud. Dude, your references are out of control. Everyone knows that.
Now we're going on to another Capcom game, and we're going to be talking about the Resident Evil 2 remake. A game I don't really talk about too often, but I really enjoy. Now, when you think about an SMG in a game, you think about spray and pray, or maybe you think about a laser beam for just getting full auto headshots across the map. Whatever it is, Resident Evil 2 does not go with your expectations when it comes to SMGs. Instead, it does something wholly unique and really cool with their balancing. Your handgun is what you use to do general damage. A shotgun or grenade launcher has the stopping power. A magnum is going to be what you use to take down bosses. SMGs, on the other hand, whether it be Claire's Mac 11 or the Umbrella Unit's MP5, have the ability to dismember the zombies you come across. So these guns are not powerful weapons by any means. However, they're always useful, because if you're going around the RPD and you don't want to use any of your other guns, or you just have tons of ammunition in this SMG, you can make areas easier for you by delimbing zombies, so next time you go through there, they're not going to be as fast or be able to grab you as easily. So the SMG becomes this really cool tool where the objective isn't to kill, but it's just to immobilize. It's great for helping conserve ammo, and it's also great for, just going through the game a little bit faster, as you don't need to take the time to kill every single zombie you come across. And yeah, I've never seen a game balance SMGs like this, so I had to give a little bit of a shout out to Resident Evil 2 Remake. Dead Space 2 is a really cool game that I have talked about and will talk about more in the future. And while I've talked about the grenade launcher, or the detonator I think it's called in this game before, I really just want to take a little bit of extra time to talk about just how cool and different this weapon is. In a game like Dead Space or Resident Evil, you're usually using your weapons against enemies that are already advancing towards you to halt their advance, to hit them in certain weak points. It's a tried and true formula. The detonator functions completely differently, and it does what a lot of games try to do, but it actually achieves it. You see, with the detonator, you'll come across certain levels that are specifically designed for leaving traps, for enemies that are specifically designed for trying to, flank you, overwhelm you, so going into straight combat isn't a good idea. So with the detonator, you're supposed to study your environment, lay your traps, trigger the enemies, and then lure them into your traps. And you have to deal with, the certain venues you're going to be cutting off for yourself as well. You got to worry about the proximity of the explosions. You get a lot of high tense scenarios. And the detonator really makes you feel safe, because while it doesn't give you control over your enemies, it gives you control over the space. And I really don't see games that handle trap making very well. But this makes me feel like I'm Schwarzenegger towards the end of Predator, setting up these different things and then trying to trick the enemies to attacking me the way I want them to attack me. And this mind game is really freaking cool. You have guns like the bolt thrower or, placeable landmines in games, but they're always very shallow, or they don't really hit the pitch that the developers want them to. But the detonator definitely hits that stride with a trap-based weapon. Now, Ghost of Tsushima is a game that we've also talked about in this channel. However, I really just want to bring attention to the one main weapon you're going to be using throughout the entire game: the sword. You see, Jin Sakai's sword is the perfect example of a single weapon that does multiple different things. You know how I'm always talking about how I hate games that have like 10 weapons but they all do the same thing? Jin Sakai's sword is literally the opposite of that. With the stance system, you switch between different stances based on the enemies you're coming across. So there's a stance for fighting different swordsmen, there's a stance for breaking through shields, and there's a stance for countering spears. So the game never feels button mashy, because you have that moment of thinking before combat where you have to switch between these different styles if you're going to come out alive. And on harder difficulties, this style switcher is super important. It's literally a better version of what they tried to do with the MGS4 M4, where you have that one weapon that's just the centerpiece of all combat. However, Ghost of Tsushima balances that said weapon much better, and it takes place in an overall much better balanced sandbox. So yeah, Jin Sakai's sword is definitely something cool, and I hope a lot of developers take the time to realize why this works so well. Alright, so last but certainly not least is going to be the Eleanor plasmid towards the end of BioShock 2. Now, there's a lot of games that have NPCs helping you, NPCs you need to protect, NPCs you need to guide in order for them to do something that advances the gameplay. However, this plasmid allows you to take control over when Eleanor is there. if you want her around in combat, who you want her to attack. It's a simplified method of communicating with this NPC in a way that just feels natural to the gameplay rather than something that stops the gameplay. So you can see here, I'm playing Bioshock 2 normally, and right into the dual wielding system, I can just sick Eleanor on this guy. I can have her just keep me company outside of combat and listen to her dialogue lines. How much I want to be around her is completely within my control, and through this plasmid, I can do that. Eleanor and everything about Bioshock 2, how it handles its morality system and interaction with NPCs, is just kind of god tier, and while I have talked about it in the past, I feel like I need to make an entire video just talking about how good Eleanor is. So that's it, just a quick little video where we go over just some niche instances of good balancing. What do you think of these different balancing examples I brought up? Do you have an example of a game that, even if it has a bad sandbox, has some good balancing going on? If you do, let me know down in the comments below. Anyways, I wanted to talk about something that wasn't a comfort shotgun or just straight up single purpose or level up. Let me know what you think, let me know if you enjoyed, and anyways, I will see you guys in the next video. This has been Pliskin, over and out.
This is Solid Snake. Hey, subscribe to Pliskin Boy. God damn it.
You heard him.